boating coordinator. And then Priscilla Mary-Cruser is the boating safety advocate program coordinator, and they're here to talk about boating safety in Oregon, but also in particular on the Willamette River and the Kinsey River, since those are the rivers we all enjoy most frequently here in Eugene, Springfield. Before we get into their presentation, I did want to just make a couple other announcements. We have a new form on the table. If you have a program idea, throw it on here and give it to one of the board members, or you can give it to Lynn at the end of the meeting. We'll discuss it in our next programming committee meeting. We already got a suggestion. Thanks, Tom. So that's perfect. We want to have ideas and bring programs forward that you guys are all interested in hearing. If you aren't a member, but are interested in becoming a member, we have our little membership form. It's $100 for individual, $175 for a partner with you or family, and then $350 for businesses. We'd love to get you on our email list if you aren't already, so you get the emails for the meeting notifications. That's what this one's for. We're gonna be a little less formal today. We're gonna just raise hands, and Eddie and Priscilla can just call on you to ask questions. If you are uncomfortable with that, we do have our form, but it's a little more formal. So just raise your hand at the end when we get to questions. They're gonna be about 20-30 minutes presentation, the rest for questions. They also invited a guest with them to help answer any questions. Which we're excited to have a local law enforcement officer here too. That's great. And when he said your name, all I heard was Eric Church. I don't know the singer, but in your name.
That's why.
Church, oh,
Yeah.
Eric Churchill.
Yeah.
No wonder I went right there. So, yes. So with no further ado, I'm gonna hand it over to Eddie and Priscilla, and thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having us. And yes, this is Deputy Eric Churchill, and we contract with law enforcement partners across the state, being the Oregon State Marine Board. And so it's by church that I always just used to call him, Eric Churchill Church, because we work very closely together. So my name is Eddie Persichetti, Deputy Churchill, Wayne County, one of the top, you should know Wayne County is one of the top performing counties as far as Marine Patrol in the state. So thank you for keeping people safe, Church. You're doing a great job. So I'm curious, if you have any questions, just shout out. Priscilla and I are pretty low key. Who knows who the Marine Board is? And okay, 1, 2. So that's a great show of hands. So you should know this is really important. We are Oregon's recreational boating safety agency in the sense that we do everything boating. This is our mission right up here, so you can read it for yourselves. But we are the last standalone agency in the United States that represents boaters. There's nothing like us in the United States. Most states are kind of wrapped up into like a Department of Environmental Management or state police or something like that. So we are very fortunate that we live in a state where we truly represent the boaters, and we do everything in our agency. We build facilities, we make laws. Priscilla navigates the boating safety advocate team that goes out there and really does a great job educating. We have contracts with law enforcement partners. I do the LE training, so we do everything boating. So if you call the Marine Board, we're not like a DMV. You can't renew your registration there, but you'll get somebody you know. You'll get Priscilla. You'll get me. If you have a complaint, I'm not implying anything, but if you have a complaint in Wayne County, you can call us, and then I can call church, right? So really, it's amazing that we have that ability to do this. So if there's anything you need to know about boating, we're the people, and we're proud of what we do. I'm really proud of what we do. We have a lot of knowledge. Priscilla's all whitewater for the most part, right? And my previous career was big boats. Still maintain a very large captain's license. Before kids, I traveled the world on very large boats. And we had a blast doing it. So this is my safety epiphany, right? Before we get into the whitewater stuff, and I really enjoy telling this. I have tens of thousands of miles at sea, mostly blue water. The days I wore a life jacket, I can count on one. Most of the reason being is we're in warm climates. It's 82 degrees outside, water temperature 76. And the typical excuse for people that drown is, I'm a good swimmer, right? They were a good swimmer. They didn't have. That was me. Okay. That's the last boat I ran right there. It was 140 feet, Tuscan turquoise, and we had all this stuff on board. Every safety piece of equipment you could ever imagine. E-perps, internet, satellite, medical people in charge, med kits out the yin yang, you name it. We had it, whole 9 yards, and we drilled like crazy. Once a week, once a month, depending on what the drill was, because we wanted to be safe. Now, in the practical sense, the boat catches fire, you're gonna get off in 2 minutes. Not, try to, but all that with that in mind. Now, this boat right here, this is pretty recent, as a matter of fact. I just delivered this boat, it's 162 for Christensen. How many life jackets should go on that boat? Take everyone's guess. 30. 30, yeah. 40. 40, anybody else? There's 120 life jackets on that boat. Right, actually, I think it was like 126. The reason being is because about an hour from now, we took it back off the dock and went for a cocktail cruise in Newport, Rhode Island. And we needed a life jacket for every person on board. What was amazing about this was every single life jacket was locked up, right, with below decks, cabins, closets, lockers. So if that boat went down, I'm a good swimmer, right? I'm gonna swim away from it. Like, well, that wasn't my boat, that was, you know. But the bottom line is that boat went down, no one's gonna be able to grab a life jacket. I'm not gonna go down and say, hey, wait right here, I'm gonna go down to the cabin to get your life jacket. Everything's calm. Life jackets are incredibly. Now, here we've been pretty, that's me.
It's loud here, I'm wondering about the microphone. There's
Oh, yeah.
a lot of noise coming.
Sure. I'm a good bebopper. Okay,
Mike's hot.
you got it, Mike's hot. Is that better? So this was my epiphany, right? My first daughter, 2015. My only daughter, son. So this was my chart. It's a 32-foot Blanchard, 1929, that my wife and I restored with 4 kids. Never wore a life jacket. Guess where they were? Below decks, exactly, in the locker. So every night, we would bring that boat into Warren, Rhode Island, current run 4 knots. Almost what it is out there today. And I would put the canvases on the boat. Probably after having a cocktail, because those of you know East Coast boating, right, you really like to sit on the docks and have a good time and tell stories. So 2 times a day, 4 knots, 2 meters per second, that's 60 feet if I fall in that water in 10 seconds, I'm gone at nighttime. So imagine what it's gonna do to you out here if you fall in the water. Before you even say help, because you're gonna be gasping for air, all right, you're gonna be gone. That distance, 60 feet in 10 seconds. So do the math for a minute. That's a lot of feet. There's my daughter. So tie the boat up at night. And this is when I started wearing a life jacket. And there was a deputy there. His name was Deputy Dave. These no clothes, some of them are still not. Right. So he always smoked clothes. I put the canvases on the boat. I jumped on the dock and he scared me to death. He was right there. And he stared me right in the eye. So now I'm the big boat captain. And he looks at me and he goes, Eddie, you're dad. We're a goddamn life jacket. We walked away. At that moment in my life, all of the license that I had, all the miles, it meant nothing to me. Nothing to me. Because Dave put me in my place. To top it off, he took that picture and he printed it out and he put it on the boat. So I go down the next day, and it's at the helm of the boat with a brand new Mustang inflatable life jacket on the wheel of the boat. And because of Dave, I chose to wear a life jacket from that day forward, because for me, safety is my sanctuary, and I want to go home at the end of the day. Now, my kids are 8 and 10. I'm becoming a worse swimmer than I ever have in my life. And I can't hold their weight up anymore. So why not wear a life jacket? It doesn't make sense to me is why people refuse to wear life jackets in the water. Number one, you'd be lazy, which is kind of nice when you want to go on the river and enjoy the day. But bottom line is, I know for a fact that that life jacket's gonna get me home. Right, it's $120. If you want to splurge, $130. Get one, wear one, use it, set these or something. So, what is your safety plan? Who's a boat owner? Just one? Okay,
you talking? I got a 10-foot kayak.
perfect, yeah, kayaks, yes, yeah, kayak boards, yes, they are violent a boat, it's 100%, okay, a few more hands, perfect. Perfect, okay, I like it. I like it.
Okay.
So Priscilla and Church would agree, one of the biggest things that people do not do is when they go to water is they don't file what's called a float plan. Basically, that's picking your phone up and sending a text to someone you trust, who's not on the river with you. And let them know where you're going, who you're with, what you're on, like, I'm on my paddleboard, it's green, and I'm gonna be home around 5 o'clock. If you were to let people know that, I tell you that Church would have an easier time finding you because he's gonna contact your friend and say, hey, do you know any information? Yeah, Priscilla said that she'd be back at 5 o'clock and she was at the North Fork Reservoir and they were on the green paddleboard. And he's gonna say thank you. That's a huge piece of information. Instead of, I don't know where they went, we just took the paddleboard and left. Okay, so please share that with the people you love, yourselves included. We wanna make sure you tell people where you're going and what you're doing, who you're with, what the plan is. Simple. What's your CFS? CFS is cubic feet per second. Any idea what you live today?
No.
No. Either way, cubic feet per second. It could change daily, not so much this time of year. Unfortunately, in my opinion, are already ridiculously low for this time of year. But the rivers change. What's on top of the current or top of the water is not the same at the bottom. So look at NOAA if you're really going out in the big day, and we'll talk about that later, but find your resources and see what the river's doing for that day. Obstructions, there's a big tree out there. That tree can move when the water is high. We have a great resource on the Marine Board website, and I can show it to you later, but it's an obstruction website, so people report to us what's in the river, strainers, trees. There's been cows, dead cattle, some really strange things, couches, you name it, it could be in the river. And if you're gonna get caught up on it, they report it to us and we put it on our website. Go up there, you can see what's downriver, upriver, where you're gonna be. Keep yourself safe.
Around
3,000 CFS, perfect. Awesome, thank you. What's your health? I don't wanna know, don't tell me, okay? But you know, if someone has a heart condition, if that water is freezing right now, it is really cold. So if I'm with somebody and I know they're gonna cramp up or they haven't been drinking water, whatever the case is, let somebody know like, hey, I'm not a good swimmer and I have a heart condition. I'm diabetic, whatever the case is, if you go out for the day, make sure you know where their insulin is or whatever, they're gonna take to perk themselves up if they have some kind of diabetic shock, but that's really, really important. And if you find yourself in an emergency, ask somebody, hey, is this person? Mental stuff I should know, right? Because it's not about helping yourself, it's about helping others, all others to recreate. And that's a big one too, where am I? I don't know. When you float the river, it all looks the same after a while, especially after a couple cocktails. All right, what's the space? So we're gonna get along great, like, oh yeah, I know. Yeah, but it's the truth, right? If something happens and you go underwater and you pop back up, it all looks the same. So make sure you know where you're floating, learn the lingo of the river, river right, river left. Okay, who knows the difference from river right, river left? Anybody? Nobody. So this is really important. Put the current to your back, right? So water's flowing this way, river right, river left. If you're facing upriver, it's still river right, it's still the opposite, okay? So you're always facing downriver. So right now, the river's flowing this way, river right, river left. Okay, if I'm turning around, that's still river right. This is river left, it kind of switches, okay? But that's important for this guy. Because EMS is gonna ask, do you know what side of the river you're on? I don't know, there's trees everywhere. Well, river right, river left, and I'll explain to you, hopefully dispatch on the phone, right? This is how we're gonna figure it out. A lot of calls, we had someone just go over to the Willamette Falls, and the calls were endless. Because the people calling 911 had no idea how to decipher a river left or river right, western side or city side, they didn't know it was nighttime. So, that's a good piece of information. And gear, life jackets, sunscreen, hydrate. Right, have fun out there. Sugar's always a good thing, right, during a hot day. I personally like Skittles, I'm gonna tell you, I like those a lot. So always pack some sugar, and again, not only is it good to eat and healthy, but in the event you have somebody with a medical emergency, get a diabetic thing, it's always good to have something like that, little to-go bag, right, some snacks, first aid kit, Band-Aids, important. Throw bag. Not gonna really talk about all these that much, but I wanna show you this picture. Who knows what a throw bag is? Anybody? Okay. So basically, it's a bag and a rope, and if somebody's in trouble, you throw it to them. This is a brand new piece of equipment. I'm not gonna tell you what company it was. Brand new, used for the first time. This bag is called blowout. That seam actually came undone and that line was absolutely worthless. So make sure if you buy a life jacket, if you buy it on Amazon or a throw bag, it's a good brand. Make sure it's US Coast Guard approved. If you get cheap stuff, there's a reason why it's cheap, because it's just cheap. And I'm gonna show you some of our life jackets here in a few minutes. EPIRB, that is electronic, it's electronic, device, basically, when you pop the EPIRB, it's a personal locating beacon. So anybody do offshore boating here? Okay, if you have an EPIRB or PLD, okay, personal locating beacon.
I have a whistle.
Yeah, perfect, yeah,
Okay,
Yeah.
does that fall in that category?
yeah, 100%.
Okay,
Yeah,
I
100%.
have a whistle on all my kayaks.
Yeah, so when you're in your kayak, whistle the knife. Do the best things you can have. Yep, absolutely, because when you fall in the water, it's gonna be really hard to stream with the gas tank. This time of year, it's super cold. And by law, you're required to carry a whistle, a noise making device, okay, with your life jacket. And a few other things, but yeah, whistle is a huge piece of equipment they have, 100%. And then there's something else called a Z-Drag kit, and that's a rope, kit that we carry on our boats, that basically, if your boat goes in a gravel boat over here, church can come up with a jet boat, and then we can come down with a raft, and we use this big rope technique thing that looks really cool. That's not too hard to set up, and we can drag your boat off the rocks using a ratio, like a 2-to-1 ratio or 3-to-2 ratio, or whatever this is. Whereas someone, me, 165 pounds, can pull off a boat off a gravel bar, it's kind of like block and tackle system. So that's all the stuff that we carry. You don't need all that stuff, it adds up pretty quick, but it's sure good use. This guy right here, this is how we train. We wear this stuff all the time. Are you gonna wear this stuff when you're in the river for the day, on a boat? No. No, you're not. You can. You're gonna be really hot, but I would say all in all, that's what, $3,000 worth of gear shirt, give or take, all day long. So, yeah, there's a reason why we wear that stuff, is because we see dead people. Not in this room.
Well, maybe.
Yeah, maybe, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
But, you know, unfortunately, one of the things of our job, especially this guy right here, is that he sees the worst. Like, first responders see the worst. And when you see the worst, the first thing people look for is an excuse as to how it happens. Oh, well, he was drunk. That's why. Okay, that doesn't solve the problem. It still happens. So when you go in the river, please be safe. You can get all the dry suit and helmet stuff and dry bags and carabiners, and you look pretty awesome. I guarantee you walk into any restaurant or hotel or coffee shop, they're gonna probably get you a drink and say, let's hear about your day. But you're probably gonna be wearing your Keens, right, with a shirt, hopefully a life jacket, and that's probably it. But be careful. This is Priscilla right here. Priscilla, you come on up here and talk about what to wear. And then we can talk about some life jacket stuff.
So yeah, this can get kind of in depth, but things I like to think about this time of year. It's the beginning of summer, like it just turned summer. It just rained yesterday, so we're not really into summer yet. So just yesterday I took my crew on a training trip. On the lower Clackamas. It was raining, there'd be seconds of sun, it'd be chilly, the water wasn't as cold as the water here. There's a dam involved, so the water gets to heat up a little bit where we were. But some of our participants were a little bit chilly, so I like to think about when I'm at the put-in, am I near the water? Like, am I in a parking lot that is warm? Does that relate to what's gonna happen when I'm on the water? Typically, once you get on the water, it's about 10 degrees cooler than it would be in the parking lot. That's a good rule of thumb. So what I like to do is I bring a dry bag with me, and this is what I did yesterday. I bring a couple extra layers, cause it never hurts to have extra layers. Bring a vest if someone in your crew gets cold. Once you get off the water, if you're waiting around, have maybe a beanie for them to wear if they get extra cold. I typically wear a dry suit when it's colder than this kind of weather, or if it's a cold river and I'm kayaking farther upstream towards Oak Ridge, I'll wear a dry suit there. But not everyone buys a dry suit or has a dry suit. Wetsuits are a great option, especially if you're in the water. Wetsuits work great when you're in the water. They work horribly when you're out of the water. That's the great thing about wetsuits is if you're inner tubing, stand-up paddleboarding, the water's a little bit cold, it's 70 degrees, you wanna get outside because it's sunny, but it's not quite 95 degrees. Wetsuits are an awesome option. There's a lot of affordable wetsuit options. There's a company called NRS that sells them online pretty affordably. Big Five even sells wetsuits, so you can get them pretty much anywhere. Cotton's not great unless you're going to Southern Oregon. If you're in Grant Pass on the road where the water's not super cold, it's 105 degrees out. Cotton's okay if you're trying to keep your body temperature from overheating. I say generally, most places in the Willamette Valley, if you're in the water, cotton's just gonna keep you colder than you wanna be. Unless it's like 105-degree day, like we've been having more often. So think of having like a wicking fabric, quick dry fabric. I know Nike, Adidas, all those companies, your typical sportswear company will sell clothing like that. Somewhere, I have spent enough days in the sun that I know that I'm gonna pay for it later. I wish that in that time they had sun protective clothing like they do now. There are tons of company that make, it's called UPF. It is a ultraviolet ray protective fabric. Basically, the fabric is just woven more closely together. So that will help you from getting exhausted in the heat. It will keep you from getting skin cancer, which is awesome. And it looks kind of cool. I think we just ordered some from Carhartt that were sun protective hoodies that are true wears, and they look nice. They also help keep you cool. If it's a hot day, you can dump them in the water, they help keep you cool. Footwear, I would say wear what you're comfortable in and what you have closed-toed is great. Most of our rivers around here have slippery rocks. Most of the accidents I've seen that are like kind of funny accidents and not less on the life-threatening side of things is people falling on shore near rivers because they don't have appropriate footwear. Or they wore flip-flops inner tubing, their flip-flops ended up downstream. I know a number of our law enforcement officers have collections of Crocs and flip-flops in their offices. So don't add to that collection. Wear something like what he has over there, has toe protection, get an awesome hand line. Tacos has a strappable sandal that you can wear to a bar. Some bars get a cool tan, and it's good footwear. These are also quick drying water footwear, but basically avoid Crocs and flip flops. I'd say the one thing with Crocs is if you flip them into all terrain mode and tighten them down, you can get by with them. But they're not super recommended. If you're doing anything in the winter, that's when you start to think about more specialized equipment. So if anyone is thinking about getting into winter boating, feel free to call the Marine Board. We can give you some nice tips on how to do that safely and appropriately and where to buy the equipment and what kind of training you might need. So yeah, whitewater paddling. Willamette Valley is full of whitewater. From that in the backyard, that is whitewater. That's moving water with some rapids. There's a play wave that is a part of a weir on this river. I forget if it's upstream or downstream, that you'll see whitewater kayakers playing in. Farther upstream, there's a section called the Miracle Mile where people will practice their class 4 or 5 paddling skills just by doing laps on it. It's awesome. This area is kind of a mecca for whitewater paddling. So you may see some around in the summer or most often in the winter when the water's up on streams that feed this main river. The thing about whitewater paddling is typically the people who are going to be doing it in this area are going to have a skill set to do so. It takes training, classes. I got into it by living in Southern Oregon, becoming a guide, then taking a bunch of classes, then going to Oregon State. I know, Beaver, but going in their outdoor program and learning more about it. So I had a lot of preparation. There's a good community of mentorship within whitewater paddling. So bringing newcomers in, taking them down easier waters, making sure they're prepared before taking the next step. There's a lot of resources here online now, which is awesome. When I was learning how to whitewater kayak, there was like one website, 2 websites, and a bunch of printed guidebooks that a lot weren't sold in bookstores. That ask a friend that maybe had a copy of the guidebook, bring it with you in the car. There was no website like the Marine Board has that tells you where the river hazards like logs in the water are. It was all very much figured out on your own. So There's awesome resources. If you're thinking about it before you go, look to our Marine Board website. We have an app called Boating Obstruction Reporting Tool that we keep online. Our law enforcement officers contribute to, the public contributes to tell where debris is in the rivers, which this time of year is a great time to be looking. As the water is receding, you're starting to see stuff show up that maybe was covered by water at higher water level or moved around during flood season. American Whitewater is a great website. We are not affiliated with it, but they are a nonprofit group that has a accident report, their own database where they report whitewater accidents. We can read and learn from them. They also have information and maps of every river that's whitewater packed and the West Coast and the East Coast and broadly the country. So you can look, you can see the map. You can zoom in, zoom out, see what difficulty of rapid, click on it, see a trip report, hyperlinks to other trip reports. It's a very useful tool to know what you're getting into before you put it on. Nowadays, there's tons of different paddle craft. We're just talking about mini jet boats are becoming more popular. So we live in an age where there's all sorts of new boats coming on the market, from inflatable avocados to mini jet boats. Depending on where you are in the time of year, you might see a variety of watercraft. So here's just a couple examples of rapid difficulty. So this is like what a class 3 rapid looks like. There's some rocks in the water, some obstacles, pretty easy to navigate. Just on the back of some of us in front of me is a class 1 rapid. Maybe on one side of the island, it's about class 2. You change at water levels. Sharps Creek is not super far from here. That's class 3, but a steep class 3. We might call it a class 3 because once you line up in that tongue, there's not much navigation needed. There's maybe not a log in the way or an undercut you have to avoid. Consequences are manageable, but you need a certain skill set. You can't just not know how to go down that, or hopefully not. You could, but
Yeah.
probably wouldn't want to. Class 4, Salmon Creek Falls, kind of straightforward, bigger. Maybe there's a little bit of a hydraulic at the bottom. You want to know how to roll your boat or be comfortable swimming, be wearing appropriate flotation, dry suit, that sort of thing. Because that creek doesn't run unless there's a little bit of water in the system. And then this is Christie Creek, which is far upstream, the North Fork of the Middle Fork of the Atlantic. And that's class 5. So steeper, more consequential hazards. So that's just a good overview of a few highlights of rivers that are not far from here. You can see there's a good diversity of whitewater and why a lot of people might want to live here that like to paddle. So yeah, Eddie and I could go over this, but we kind of talked over the basics. Know what you're getting into, be prepared. You don't have to buy thousands of dollars worth of gear. You just have to rationally think about what am I doing, what time of year it is, what are the flow conditions? Is it something where it's a river where I need to plan for the takeout? Be surprised how many people have taken down the river as a commercial diver. I think the river goes in a circle. Are we gonna end up where we started? No, sure aren't. Only about 14 miles down the street. So yeah, just think about these things, be smart, have fun. The river's awesome. We live in a beautiful place where we have access to water, and recreation, and just do it responsibly, pass your knowledge along as you do so. So, yeah, thanks. I'm turning it around to you or.
Yeah, thanks Priscilla. And back to what Priscilla was saying, how are you gonna respond? Because when you go outside, recreate, something will happen. And I don't say it might not be for the better, but something will happen, especially in the busy day. So again, now only before you go, do you have cell phone reception? Do you have a man kit? Right, just the basics. Do you have a spare key? Because a lot of people jump in the river and they forgot that their keys are in their pocket. Okay, and then you can't get in your car. So do you have a hide key? Something that simple. And also, again, if someone has to call 911, just those basics. I'm here with this person. This person is wearing this. Calm down. As long as you're okay, get the facts. And then ask for help. That's really, really important. One thing I want to show you, this life jacket right here, and then we'll bring church into the loop as well and have some questions and church can tell you all the deep dark secrets. This is called a Chimera. This life jacket is made by Mustang and I wear this all time. And the reason is because there's no reason not to. It is absolutely super thin. It's got 22 pounds of buoyancy, which is way more than I need. And my kids can grab onto the side of this and it'll stay afloat. It also has extra flotation in it, so if I pull this cord right here, there's a CO2 cartridge in here, and the bladder just kind of blows up. You mentioned a whistle, so I have whistle right here. If you carry a whistle, make sure if you have it tied to your life jacket, it's long enough that you can blow into the whistle and grab it. We see it all the time too, right? They'll try and, where's my whistle, and it's in their pocket or whatever, they can't get up to their mouth and they're in the water, so make sure if it's on a lanyard, it's long enough for you to actually blow into it. And then a basic knife, you can get these on Amazon. This is an NRS knife. Conveniently, it's got a bottle opener, right? Never know. But, you know, these are awesome to have, just in case. And again, if you don't need it, someone else might. But
Great
this,
for cheese and crackers.
cheese and crackers, cheese and crackers. But this is the Canara. This life jacket, this is all universal, whitewater rated. I can wear this life jacket on any one of our trainings. I would see that it's much more thick in the front and in the back, offers more protection. In my opinion, it's very hot summer day, right? This one's a little cooler. That's the only downfall wearing something like this, but this will 100% keep you afloat all day long. US Coast Guard approved. And again, designed for whitewater. All the stuff Priscilla just showed you up on that screen, this will totally do the trick. This will not. Okay, this is not rated for that big stuff. This is. So again, know before you go, right? Go in the river, but I'm gonna be swimming in. And then the most popular one we see nowadays is the inflatable life jacket. Anyone see these before? Yeah, so these are, yeah, so these are, you know, crabbing, fishing. Please do not wear these in the river. It's better than nothing. Or it's better than nothing. But these offer no buoyancy whatsoever unless you actually inflate the life jacket. So you pull this cord right here and it doesn't explode and knock your head off. It just kind of, you know, comes up over your neck. But we see these sometimes on the river. Again, something is better than nothing. But the fact is, it's not gonna do anything when you fall in the water. This one, you have to automatically inflate yourself. So that's why these life jackets right here, these are called inherently dormant life jackets. These are where it's at all year round, no matter what you're in. That's what I think you should purchase if you're looking to get into a life jacket. And you'll have them forever. When you're done, rinse them out in salt water, you're good to go. Yes, sir.
If you're unconscious, does that kind of turn?
That's a great question. No, this one does not. So, this is not, I believe this one, I don't think so.
Maybe, usually the ones that have the head flaps in the back are self-turning, is
Yeah.
what they call it. I don't believe this one is,
I don't think so.
cause I know that I've floated like this before and it doesn't hurt me.
For the recreational rescue services,
You don't have some of these ones.
yeah, that's a great question. And here's, so you're talking like type 1, type 2 offshore bass, yeah, and they're amazing, that's what they do. The type 1, type 2 life jackets, when you're falling unconscious, it rights yourself, you got a little pillow here, wake up and figure out what's going on. A lot of people think they're uncomfortable. That's the downfall. But however, they do sell inflatables just like this that are rated, and it will say on the package of the life jacket will turn an unconscious person right side up. So relabel. There's a lot of life jackets on Amazon, not US Coast Guard approved. They might say SOLAS approved, which is safety of life at sea, doesn't count. So please, if you see a life jacket on Amazon, it's $30. There's a reason it's $30. Okay, Mustang, NRS. They're two of the best brands. We have zero affiliation to anything, by the way, as far as anymore, but this is just my experience. Yes.
Kids life jacket.
Yeah.
So like infants, toddlers, I originally bought my, about a year old, one of the ones with the self.
Yeah.
I heard horror stories from moms who put those on their kids and it pushed them down.
Really?
So I just, yeah, so I'm curious what you recommend for it.
Were they self-inflating or were they?
Was it?
No, it's not.
I've never heard that. That's not to say it can't happen. My kids have a pillow, and yeah, they're in moving water, they're in rivers, lakes, you name it, offshore, and they wear them all the time. They wear a hot tub. It's kind of weird. Well, yeah.
Anybody.
Yeah, but
That's
they,
love of water.
yeah, right, water safety, yeah. But here's the story, and then I'm gonna hand it over to the church, because this is his backyard. This is very unfortunate. It was in Warren, Rhode Island. Kid had a life jacket just like that, and it fell to die, just a little taller than that. Right? Kids are kids. The crotch strap wasn't buckled. So those of you with kids, grandkids, whatever, if you have one of those life jackets with a pillow top, a handle that has a crotch strap, make sure that crotch strap is buckled. Because Harbor Patrol was right there, Deputy Dave, went out, grabbed the kid, and the life jacket came. That was not a good option. So please make sure that that buckle is buckled all the time with the kids. If you see a kid on the shore and that life jacket is dangling, that buckle, just be a good Samaritan. And I know as parents, sometimes we don't like to get advice from strangers, but hey, I see your life jacket. Awesome. You might want to buckle that just to be safe. It's gonna, it's gonna do its job and keeps, hopefully we'll do something like that, but that's super fun. So, but yeah, I've never heard anything bad like that happening. Yeah.
And one last thing, does everyone know how to fit a life jacket, like how it should fit or feel on an adult person? It should be like a tight hug, so basically, I'm wearing Eddie's life jacket, Eddie and I are the same size. What you're talking about made me think of this is when you use the life jacket to, if someone has to assist in pulling you up, you don't want it to come up and over your heads, and you don't want your kids to have that happen when you need to pull them up. And so basically you would make it so this can't go above much farther past your earlobes. So if you're putting life jackets on kids or friends or yourself, and it's like, yeah, it's hot, I want my life jacket loose. Just make sure it fits appropriately, so if you fall in or need assistance getting back into your boat, you're floating the Willamette, someone kind of pulls on your life jacket and all of a sudden they have an empty life jacket. Yeah, so it should feel like a tight hug. If it feels like it's too tight, jump in the water, nylon stretches with wetness. And if you can't breathe, it's probably too tight.
Yeah, yeah, it happened to me last year. But one thing too, paddling has exploded, recreational paddleboard, right? 2020, everybody bought a paddleboard. You could go to any big box store and get one for $189 and have it. By law, you're required to carry a life jacket, not wear it. But you have to carry a US Coast Guard approved life jacket on a paddleboard, a kayak. You have to have a waterway access permit. Buy those 10 feet or greater, you get a waterway access permit. Legislatively, they're gonna change, has it changed yet?
We're unsure. It may change to all
Yeah.
craft. Right now it's 10 feet and over, and it's
Yeah.
$30 every 2 years. So it's not very much.
Yeah, sorry, I know, sorry, I'm not getting the money, don't be mad at me.
You don't get
okay?
paid.
Yeah, but you know,
ODFW.
great question. So you can go to the ODF&W website, Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife, or you go to our website, ODF&W.
That's
Yeah,
where I get mine.
yeah, me too.
It's also an invasive species, so we
Correct.
haven't talked about that, because there used to be a separate permit, I think.
It's all in one.
Yeah, it's all.
And it's all in one now, which is nice, but that is also an important thing, which I realize is outside of the scope of this one, but invasive species is a big deal.
Oh, yeah, huge deal.
In Oregon, and that helps to, that fund
The
some of
tax
those.
stations.
Yeah, so really anybody that's got 10 foot or higher, we buy ours. It's important to be a good citizen and buy your waterway access.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. And it is, and all the money for the waterway access permits go into access. Because what was happening was all the ramps throughout the state, power boats primarily, are funded through voting registrations. So in 2020, when everything was closed out, all the power boats were being blocked by paddlers, more or less, sorry, so. And there was conflict. There was legitimate, like, full force Rocky conflict at boat ramps, like, this is awful. So we said there has to be a way we can fund access, make access better. So we created a waterway access permit program. Every single thing goes to access. It's already improved tenfold throughout the state. It's amazing. But you need a waterway access permit and a whistle, or taking device if you have it. Leashes are a big question because it may or may not come with a leash. We just had a fatal over in the Deschutes River, unfortunate couple from a pine, not known area, launched their SUPs. Stands for stand up paddleboard, and a ramp that is historically for a takeout point. And they went immediately downriver into some big water and weren't prepared for it. And fortunately she drowned. And she was wearing a leash. It was not a quick release leash. There's leashes designed for whitewater. They're called quick release. And so you can do whatever you want. There's no protocol. And Priscilla, feel free to step my toes on this. I don't wear a leash in moving water. Period. I don't do it because I'm wearing a life jacket. If I fall in, I know I'm okay, I'm wearing a life jacket, I'll get the paddleboard at some point, I don't care. Okay, my kids don't wear leashes. Now, if we're in a lake, we'll wear a leash, flat water, 100%, leashes on. That's just what I don't know what you do.
Yeah, I think it's situational. I know people that do like harder whitewater standard paddleboarding have to quick release leashes because in that environment, they would catch up to the paddleboard in time and it'd probably become someone else's problem. On this kind of stuff, I'd say don't do a leash. If you need a leash and want a leash, because you feel like you couldn't catch up to your board or you're not in a group, get a quick release and practice using it. That's the key. It's a belt system, you pull the tab and you're free. The problem with ankle leashes is everyone thinks that they're gonna be able to reach down to their ankle and release themselves from the system. Even the strongest of the strongest people can't do that. With surfing in the ocean, it's different. You don't have logs in the ocean that you're gonna get trapped on. If you're not surfing a rocky beach, you don't have rocks where you're gonna get your ocean tangled in it. So I think the culture of surf on the ocean translated to standard paddleboarding and the catching up and what you have a releasable system anytime you have leashes or attachments to equipment in a river system. So yeah. And then the leash on the lake makes a lot of sense. We have a lot of windy lakes. If one goes one way. So having a leash there is really helpful and you don't have the entrapment hazard to down.
I don't know if you guys remember, it was 2020, the double fatal right down over here.
It's Christmas. Christmas Eve.
It was.
Yeah, remember that.
This was my first year working Marine Patrol. It was the leashes that got me. Very familiar with this stretch of the river. It was their Christmas tradition. And the leashes is what got me.
Yeah, father and daughter.
Had they had the quick release, like they would have been good. But it was the leashes that got it in that day.
What happened?
It was their, like I say, it was a Christmas tradition, and I unfortunately know very well because it was all captured via GoPro. Their own GoPros.
Well,
They-
somebody, that's.
Yeah, it was a double fate. Father-daughter. They put in a day out of the park. They didn't arrive at their takeout where they had told, mom, husband, where they were gonna be, or not, put a day island, they were gonna go all Baker. They never made it to all Baker. So first we're called and notified, hey, we got some missing people. And within 5 minutes, we had another call from a guy on the bike path, right there below D Street, that said, I see something in the water. I don't know if it's a person or if it's trash. We get a lot of cans floating down there or whatnot that time of year. We responded and it was a father and a daughter paddleboards. They had gone down river, they were preparing to go around that little dog lake around the Blowhead Dam. And when they went around, the daughter fell off her paddleboard, she was trying to get back on. Dad turns around and says, hey, watch it, there's a log down here. And before he could turn around, he was wrapped in it. He went one way, the paddleboard went the other way. Daughter came down, the same exact thing happened. We got there, we found them, their leashes were stretched out like this. They were that straight, perfectly straight, rather than all coiled up like this everything. Had the quick release ones been on there, that pressure would have built up off three and would have released them.
They were in dry suit.
Partially, because they had been in the water and there was such a large amount of force that it was to peel off their life jackets. We have pictures of them in their life jackets upriver. No life jackets downstream. And I think the daughter was wearing like a neoprene long sleeve top. And there was only one arm that was still covered with it.
Yeah.
The water just that much force is gonna peel that stuff off. Kind of like she was saying, making sure your life jackets are fitted properly. We come across a lot of kids in the rivers and lakes that are wearing the life jacket, so that's a win. But it's mom or dad's life jacket, and they sit down and the shoulders right here come up halfway to their ears, and you can walk up to them and just pick them up, pick up the life jacket, and the kid stays right down the seat.
So on that note, have a great day in the river.
Yeah.
Have an awesome summer.
But I think that goes along with, like they were saying, the obstructions webpage, knowing where you're going. Knowing that we have this Blowhead Dam, that there's a huge controversy in throughout the state. But knowing that that's there and knowing what your options are ahead of time. You know, we can put up signs all day long and do press releases that say, hey, this is bad, the bad area. But it's only as good as the people that are watching the news, seeing stuff online. The signs, we put them up. We have people that take them down, paint over them, all that stuff. So I think, you know, taking that 5 or 10 minutes the day before your float and doing a little bit of research on where you're gonna go, where we plan to put in, where we're gonna take out. What happens if we miss that takeout? What's our next spot? And then relaying that to someone, making somebody aware. Fishing season, we get a lot of phone calls. Hey, just curious if you guys have been down this stretch of the river yet. Curious if there's any new habits. Not that we know of, we haven't been through there, but if you see something, please let us know. We go out, we mitigate trees all year round. We're cutting trees, we can't move rocks. Be nice if we could, but try to do the best we can with trees when we can. We posted, try to make everybody aware. We can't get.
And I do have to ask about rescue, because we have heard stories of people who fall in and then other people go in to rescue them. Can you talk about what would you prefer people to do? Because I know that sometimes the rescuers also end up being victims. So how would you, what advice would you give people for those kinds of instances?
Well, I mean, I can't tell you to not do something, right? You're gonna, you know, heat of the moment, you're gonna make that decision. You're not even gonna think about it very long. You're like, I'm gonna be the best set of eyes that I can, or I'm gonna do something about it. That's where maybe having a throw bag, we carry big throw bags, we carry small throw bags. The small throw bags, we go to a lot of trainings and you'll see people with the smallest adapted for life jackets. It just depends on what you want to carry. But, you know, I think the biggest thing with that is if you're gonna make that decision to go in and help somebody, know your own capabilities. And 2, make sure you're comfortable doing it, because now we've got 2 people, let's say, to rescue out of water versus just the one.
We have a saying, reach, throw, and go or don't go. So we always tell kids, reach, throw, don't go, because they're little kids. We don't want to teach them to go in after their friends. We want them to go and get help. As adults, like you're saying, trust your own ability, know your own ability, practice for it. So reach if someone's stuck on a rock, like you could reach with a paddle if you're close enough. Reach with your hand. If you're in the water, reach with your hand. And the throw bag. Throw them a floatable life jacket, throw them, if you have those little floating cushions, give them a flotation device. If you're in a kayak, you can go to them if that's within your skill set. If they're stuck in the middle of a rapid near woody debris and you don't have the skill set to navigate there, don't make yourself a part of the problem. You know, call for help, do what you can within your ability. So yeah, reach, throw, go is like a good acronym to think about, and always do it within your ability. And ask for help. Another reason to have like sections like this, you have cell phone service. Bring a waterproof case with a cell phone, so if you find something, see something, need something, you're able to get a hold of law enforcement or a family member, something like that, yeah.
Something to think about with the cell phones, because everybody's got it now, right? We forget our cell phone at home, what do? We turn around, we go back and we get the darn day. A lot of people will get on the river, and we see it all summer long. They get on the river. This will be the best day ever. They start down the river, they turn their music on, they're having a great time. Things happen. You go to make that call. You've got 3% left on your phone because you did listen to that music all day. Something to think about. You know, maybe having that battery charger with you, or not listening to music all the time and having that, I know it's weird, but have an actual conversation with people. It's just texting all this.
Well, I want to clarify one thing, because we've talked about alcohol a couple times.
Yes, you can drink while you're boating.
That you can cite people on the water if, for the same kind of thing as if they are on land and
If I'm
driving.
driving a boat, I can have a beer.
Okay,
I cannot be intoxicated.
okay, and you are, as a law enforcement officer, you can cite people who are driving boats for being intoxicated while driving the boat.
Sure.
Yes, okay, I just want to make sure that's spread, we made light of it a little bit.
Yeah.
I will tell you, in my family, drinking is after.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, we don't drink while we're on the water. That is not safe. Just like alcohol does not make it fire onto them either.
Yeah.
That's some good rules.
Yeah.
Occupational health and safety, so I think all of these.
Yeah, I don't know if I agree with that, but, you know.
Things that don't go together.
Yeah.
I don't know, the range I go to has a bar.
Okay. They do. You go in the Sacramento room, they got bars all up and down, but it's like, there's probably a lot of bad stories with.
They're
Yeah.
absolutely.
And so I think it's important to call that out. I'm sorry, I just
Sure.
have to do that.
No, 100%, and, yeah, so church can cite, they have to be intoxicated, 0.08, so they'll do it. A lot of it's temperature, right, so, you know, and I know, like, I do a lot of voting in Plaquemines County, because I live in Miami City. And where we vote primarily, I know for a fact, if we're all nosed up on the boat island there on the Willamette, having a blast and not drinking, because you're right, I don't do it. I wait till I go home, and I drink a lot. But, yeah, but the bottom line is if I see a boat take off, I'm calling, fortunately, I'm not, I have, like, the people speed dial, right, so I'm gonna call whoever, or not, or 911 and say, hey, drunk boater, and I'm not gonna be the only one, I know there's gonna be 6 or 7 other people that are gonna be like, that's not, because not only that, even if they go to the ramp, they're driving home.
Right, exactly.
Same roads, family, friends, and my wife's driving on, and that's not okay, so. We have a lot of people in the state who specialize in DUI, and I remember we did this thing down in Jackson County. And it was called special emphasis, where we kind of targeted DUI. And a lot of it was rafting, non-motorized, and I'm saying to myself, if you're on rubber boats, you know. And I was put in my place, the bottom line is they're driving not over that night, so. That's a great thing, so yeah, you cannot 100% do not operate with boats at all, but church was saying by law, yes, you can drink and drive.
And you gotta remember, what is a boat? A paddleboard,
Yeah.
a canoe, a kayak,
Yeah.
a power boat, you know, all that stuff.
avocado.
You know.
You play block.
If they have a
No.
however,
It's not.
I'm kidding.
You get, but, you know, we will see, and you guys see it too, I mean, we could be sitting here on a Saturday afternoon, and you're gonna see the pink flamingo go by.
Yeah.
And that person is gonna be at just,
Yeah.
white claw after white claw, right?
Okay.
They can do it all the way,
They're not.
and when they get to the ramp, I can't get them for boating under the influence, because that's not classified as a boat. But the minute they get in their car,
Yes.
but the minute they get in their car,
Yeah.
they're off.
So you can still report, like, if you see someone on a boat ramp, obviously intoxicated, about to turn the key in their car. You can
Yeah, call it.
certainly call on.
Absolutely, hey, this person just walked off the river, man, they've been kicking it back all day long, and now they're getting in a car.
100%.
What car are they getting in? What are they getting into? Get this license plate.
Is there any interest in changing that thing about driving a boat?
That's a great question. As of now, no, there's not. Now, we kind of adopted the national statistic, and I think most states are 0.08 or whatever the legal limit is of that state. That's what that state law operates under as far as voting under the influence, but
Yeah, I don't know any state that has a no burden. I think that would be incredibly politically difficult.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
The cars, open container, isn't that right?
that's as far as I'm aware, yeah, unless you go to Mexico.
But a
Or
boat,
Texas.
I'm not.
Yeah.
but a boat, that's okay.
Yeah, but that's okay. And let's just face it, bottom line is every country song, every Jimmy Buffett song, right? It's about drinking and voting. It is. Unfortunately, they go hand. And I've seen it my entire career, my entire life. But what we've done is we've stayed on the dock. You know, and my personal rule was 24 hours, within 24 hours, back at our top end, no one's drinking and operating the boat, period. That's my rule.
Same, 20.
Yeah, so when I'm professionally operating a boat,
Yeah.
where no one is drinking 24 hours prior to departure, or 24 hours after arrival, because we don't want to hit the dock and pull the ripcord. I said, no, let's calm down for a little bit, and
Yeah.
we might have to go out of it. But that's just my personal rule, and it's really hard to, you would get a tremendous amount of pushback nationally if you said, not that I don't support it, but if you said you can't drink it.
So it's not legal to drink in a park car either, I think, I don't drink, so I think.
I don't know.
That's a
Well,
law
I
enforcement
mean,
question.
if you're sitting there parked and your keys are in ignition, then that gives us probable cause to do an investigation.
Okay.
However, if you're driving down the road and I pull you over for not wearing your seatbelt, and now I see an open beer in the center console, I may not get you for driving under the influence, but I can cite you for another container.
Yeah, are you asking for a friend?
She said she doesn't drink.
Yeah.
No, I'm just curious, what's, okay.
Yeah.
I think just education. I grew up rafting, professionally raft guiding and, private recreational rafting, like it's very common practice to have a beer on the flatwater days.
Yeah.
They're not drinking like mixed drinks and stuff, but it's like have a light beer on the flatwater days. And I'm fine with it. But when people start drinking to the point where it's impairing them, it becomes a problem for everyone. You get obnoxious voters that are infringing on other people's right to have a peaceful, enjoyable family outing. You have the driving the vehicle afterwards. So I think I have fortunately, I've started on the side of the industry, like, the rafting side where you would see kind of the 1960s. I'm not that old, but you see, the people who mentored me came from that era of no life jacket, short shorts, and even on commercially guided trips. And I've fortunately been a part of the latter part of the transformation of the industry where we're preaching, maybe wait till the lodge or the campsite to drink, or just have the one light beer on the flatwater day. So I think education goes a long way. So the more we're like friendly and educating people we go boating with that might not know the rules, just kind of teach them what the responsible protocol is, and that goes a really, really long way.
Yeah, at the end of the day, you wanna get home, right? And hold on thoughts, I wanna share something, we read a lot of the reports, so if church has a fatal or boating incident, they come to my desk and I review with Mary Ann McKenzie, our education coordinator. I would say 80+% of those reports start with somebody having a bad day. It's really fascinating to me, especially in the power boat world. I got suspect A, not suspect, person A. Some kids were yelling at them, got in an argument with the wife or their significant other, couldn't back the boat down the ramp was crowded, and then it led to a bad situation. So if I get up in the morning and if I just not having a good day, I don't really want to take the boat out, because I know that's gonna come out of the throttle of that boat, right? I'd rather just stay home or take the paddleboards out, right, a little more mellow. So, yeah, I do see a trend. If you're gonna get up and say, oh, I'm having a bad day, maybe not go on the water that day. Or it might be the opposite, maybe you go in the water and have a better day, it's awesome, right? But try not to bring that negativity to your outdoor recreation, because that's where bad things might happen. Yes, sir.
Yeah, you brought up the low head down. I'm wondering if there are any sort of escape techniques if you're pinned.
Oh, great
What
question.
do you do?
Great question.
Or is that?
If you're pinned, hope someone has a rope and knows how to get you out. I just actually saw an incredible rescue happen on the East Coast. Someone was pinned. So for rocks like this, current's going this way, legs are stuck. They had tried to get him with a rope. Person had lost consciousness. Person jumped in, grabbed him and pulled him over. I've also had a friend get trapped that same way and their femur broke in half, and that's how they got out. It was an extensive rescue that happened. So if you're pinned, a lot of it, your fate is in nature's hands, unless you have a skilled crew that you'll use. I have seen lots of successful unpinnings. If you're in a low bit dam, if there is no debris to entrap you down low, you turn yourself into a ball and you go as deep as you can and hold your breath. That's how hydraulic works, is upstream, downstream, is it's a washing machine. It will continue to circle, 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 and the pathway out is low and down. Yeah,
Tight and small.
tight and small.
If you're wearing this, you should take this off.
You
However,
should not take your life jacket off.
if you're going downriver here,
But last resort.
just stay river right to go around the corner.
One of the reasons they're controversial is because it's difficult to tell if they're fillers. They sort of.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, so I would say to that is, even on sections like this that look, innocuous, welcoming. In whatever paddle craft, including an inner tube, is know how to be able to scout ahead and stop. Learn how to eddy out, don't just buy a kayak from Bimart and figure it out on a moving current. Go to a lake, figure out how to paddle it. If you're gonna do a section like this, pick one that doesn't have hazards. Practice catching eddies, watch YouTube, take a class. Know how to master your craft before you put yourself in a situation where you're hoping you knew how to stop. in the middle of the city, right?
We try to get signs up that are maybe a little bit smaller than this, the direction, at most of the boat ramps that have a QR code on them. You can scan it and it'll take you right to the State Marine Board website for the hazards. And then you can just find your area while you're standing at the boat ramp before you go, and you're like, ooh, there's a big tree out here.
Yeah.
Okay, cool, now I at least know about it. You get there, maybe we've been able to get rid of the tree, but we just haven't taken it off the website. Well, that's a win for you guys, right? You guys don't have to worry about it. Yeah.
Well, we're just a little past one. Is there any last questions? If not, I actually had one. Did we not have anyone on Zoom with a question?
No, we have nothing on Zoom.
Okay, so you mentioned classes. Does the State Marine Board or another agency offer classes? Do you have somebody you're affiliated with that teaches safety classes?
There are lots of awesome, it depends on what level. Alder Creek, which is out of Jansen Beach, they're kind of the last standing paddle shop now. It's actually kind of closing down, other than Oregon Paddle Sports in here. Oregon Paddle Sports, I believe, does clinics. Alder Creek up in the Portland area does clinics and classes for very affordable rates. Everything from sea kayaking to intro to flat water. They'll take you to your flat water section, tell you how to wet exit out of your boat, get back in your boat, basic rescue skills. If you want to get into the whitewater stuff, I have a friend, Nature Nicole Whitewater, Zach Collier from Northwest Rafting. They do whitewater rescue courses and they're certified through the ACA. It's American Canoe Association. They're kind of a master of certifying a lot of the rescue instructors. Yeah, just type in beginner kayak clinics, Eugene area. Go to the website. It'll usually say if they're ACA endorsed or Rescue Free endorsed. And those are good ways to go.
And if you're just buying a paddleboard or a kayak, go in a lake before you go out there.
Yes.
Okay, try, or even a pool, just try flat water, standing on it, balancing yourself, blowing it up, deflating it, the whole 9 yards. Do it in a controlled atmosphere as best you can before you go on this.
I can recommend Cleowalks over by Florence.
There
There you go.
The kids won't laugh at you. You fall. Water's usually.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
The Oregon Outdoor Program is a great resource to call to. I know they have some public classes that they offer in clinics and community paddles, so you can just call their outdoor program and ask for advice. They're a great resource as well.
Do you know from Gene Parker Rex? I know.
Yeah, Blaine, yeah, they're awesome
Stuff
too.
is-
Yeah, I forget, there's so many great resources in this area. This is fun.
Yeah, and here's our email too, by the way, or I'm sorry, phone numbers, yeah, email's way too long. There's our phone number, so you can text us on those numbers as well, that's our work cell phone. Hey, Eddie, Priscilla, name, your return phone number, question, and we will absolutely 100% get back to you.
And you have our emails, so.
And I do have
Yes.
your email, which I'm happy to share out to anybody that wants to get them.
Yeah.
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 Well, thank you so much, Eddie, Priscilla, and Erica.
Have a great summer.
Hopefully we didn't confuse or overwhelm anyone.
Yeah.
No, it's great, a lot of great information. Thank you so much.
You don't have to.
And if you still have questions, I'm sure they'll hang for a couple minutes and don't ask.
Happy to. Let's wait, well, might have it on here, so.
Yeah.
It's an inflatable jet, you just like, inflate it. You demonstrate that for me? I've got some new cast